All right, let me run through how to bench press. I'm going to give you all my thoughts when it comes to the bench press. It's probably my least favorite out of the big three. Obviously, squat is number one, deadlift is a close second, and then bench press has always been a funny exercise for me because you're laying down. And in terms of athleticism, in terms of what got me into training with the barbell, has always been kind of the idea of increasing my athleticism as a basketball player early on. Over the years, I kind of realized that bench press is a very, very good tool to get upper body strength. It doesn't have to be looked at as something that's inferior to the first two lifts. The bench press is, in fact, a very, very good upper body developer, and that's why it's kind of used in the combines in America, and it's kind of used in all of the strength sports, whether you perform it as your sport or not. I myself have kind of been hot and cold about bench press over the years. In recent times, it's kind of fired up again, and I've made incredible progress. At the start of this year, I went from 140 to 152, so 12 kilogram increase in my bench pressing. After experiencing some elbow pain the previous year, that debilitated me. I couldn't really do anything. It was like right through here. I think they called it a golfer's elbow. It was absolutely debilitating. I couldn't really do much. In mornings were the worst. I had trouble opening the drawer in the kitchen. And, I'll show you guys, my thought process behind that as well. The straps over there. I'll teach you everything that I know about bench pressing, the issues that I've had. In this video, I'll cover it all. But first off, let's talk about how to set up for it, how to actually bench press, and what goes through my mind when it comes to bench pressing. Okay, so let's start. The first thing is where do you grip the bar? I mean, that's kind of in my mind the most important thing. For that, I'll take you guys over here. Hopefully this works. I'm gonna sit over here and I'll show you guys like this. Hopefully you guys can see me. Does that make sense? Maybe a little bit more close. Let's go like this. And of course, my garage is all irregular concrete, so it's kind of hard because the bench wobbles around. So I have to put these blocks of wood at the bottom. But you guys can see me here. This is the middle of the bar. Okay, so for the longest time, I used to bench press like this. This was the width for my bench press. So I would have my thumbs meeting the smooth on the bar. I would bench press like this. And I thought that was aesthetically pleasing, bench pressing like this, right? It was, more triceps than anything. And I did that for a long time. It was until I got to about 140 kilos. And I realized, okay, I've tried this, I've tried that. I think I need to try a lot more volume. And it got to a point, kind of like with my squat, where this for more volume wasn't working for me anymore. It was just simply hurting my elbows. Then I kind of worked out a bunch of different exercises. I'll take you through later on of how to deal with the pains that this grip got me. So, I was able to improve from 140 to 152 bench press purely by continuing this, but doing a lot of accessory work in order for the elbows to calm down and allow that work. Then in recent months, I decided to go away from that idea and try something which I've never tried before, which is wide, really, really wide. And so now my bench press is index finger to the rings, all the way like this. So really, really wide. This is a self-caring grip. And what I mean by that is that I don't need to do anything on the side. I don't need to do any accessory movements. I don't need to do anything at all. I can just simply do as much volume as I possibly can with this. Nothing hurts. I mean, absolutely nothing hurts. So as you're watching this, consider to yourself, sure, we all have our preconceived ideas of what we want to look like when we're moving. I had the same type of thoughts when it comes to the squat. I wanted to look like that, and I just trained like that. But I think you need to consider what your body needs to do rather than what you want it to do. So I think there's a lot of benefit. Even if you want this to be your main, and even if that feels really good for your main and your body really wants you to do that, I think it's important to train with different grips or different widths. So even if you're not having any pain, I encourage you to go wide, mix it up. I encourage you to even go more narrow, mix it up. Do blocks in each, because as I'm going to talk about in a second, where you place your hands will dictate what part of your body is working as a primary mover. So generally speaking, when you go more narrower with your bench press, you're gonna automatically tuck your elbows in. So when you go wide, your elbows tend to flare out like this a little bit more. Your elbows tend to kind of rise. As you go more narrow, you can just watch my hands kind of fall over. You're going to be touching a bit more kind of lower on the chest, and you're going to be using a lot more triceps and anterior shoulders, anterior delts. As you go wide, your pecs start to come into effect a bit more, and you start to kind of use lesser angles. And I think that's the key discovery for me. When you're benching like this, no joint gets into a really acute angle. Whereas if you go really narrow, when you go really narrow, check out where my humerus bone is, this bone here. It's like dropping way below my chest, right? My chest midline is here. Look how far I'm moving my arms. But if I go and check out the angle of the elbow, and like check out where the shoulder's pointing, like this humerus bone, it goes all the way back, which is all fair enough and all really good for muscle development if you want to feel out, bodybuilding, all that stuff. But if you're in the game of benching as much as possible, which even if you're interested in hypertrophy should be your number one consideration as a natural lifter, get as strong as possible, and then the muscle composition will follow that as well. If you're interested, and if you want to increase your maximum weight that you're lifting, you have to think about physics. And physics will tell you that if you go really acute angles, it's very hard muscularly to overcome these forces. The elbow is fully collapsed over, the shoulder's way back. These are some very acute angles to fight out of. But when you go wide, check what happens, man. So now I'm going really wide. My index fingers are on the rings, these rings here. Check this out. So this is my lockout, right? And I'll go all the way down. How much better is my humerus compared to here? It's so much better. My elbows, what's happening with my elbows? You can't see my elbows. Check out my elbows. My elbows are not even the 90 degrees. Let's say 90 degrees my elbows compared to, what's this? It's like 45 degrees. So the energy required to overcome such an acute angle is very difficult. And so maybe that in itself was what was causing me all these pains in my elbow, because over and over again doing sets of 5, sets of 10, and always fighting out of this position was doing something. I don't know. So that's the first thing to consider. You know, for me, I'm not going to tell you one way or the other, because if somebody told me one way or the other, I would have just laughed at them and just gone where I kind of felt happy with. I want to tell you this, that when I first started benching, I was in this position, felt natural from day one, and I progressed all the way to 140 kilos over the space of 10 years. It was fine, no troubles. Sometimes my shoulders would get upset, sometimes my elbows would get upset, but never like what happened last year. Last year I really tried to push it, and it absolutely killed me. I was never injured like this in my elbows ever before. Going wide was very scary for me, and I have messed around with it in the past, just like with an empty bar, and I always felt like my shoulders were going to pop out of their sockets. It felt so bad. It felt something was wrong in my shoulders. If you want to transition from narrow to wide like I did, you have to take it slow, dude. You're not going to be anywhere near the weights you are right now with your narrow. Probably that maybe is less accurate in the opposite. Let's say if you're going from a really strong wide bench press to narrow, probably those people have a lesser difficulty in doing that transition. But I know from anecdote, from my own experience, that if when I went from narrow to wide, I had great difficulties with my shoulders. And so what I did was I basically I started at 60 kilos for sets of 5. And I just went, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 sets of 5. When I reach 5 sets of 5, I'll go to 70 kilos and 80 kilos, and that's how I went. It took me several months, and now I'm doing 130 kilos for sets of 3, and I'm kind of working towards that 5x5. So this is like, I feel like this is the most important part of benching. Where do you place your hands? I have met a guy personally recently who benches really, really narrow. Like his hands are like basically like this. And he could do 207 kilos like this. Similar height to me, a bit heavier than me. 207 kilos at something like 24 years of age. I made a video about him, about our chat, probably a month ago or so now. And so you can get filthy strong like this. But for some of us, we can't. So we need to kind of be open to changing our hand placements. I'm still stronger. I hit 152 in this position, but this is allowing me to get so much volume into benching without any pains at all. So that's, I feel like, the first thing to consider when you're benching. Now, let me set up again and we'll go through the rest of the benching tips and tricks and whatnot. So that's the first thing. Where do you grip the bar? That's the absolute most important thing. All right, now let's set up this a little bit. Okay, so the next thing to consider is where do you set up in relation to the bar? So, how am I going to show you this? So, when you're getting underneath the bar, like this, right? Where do you position yourself under the bar? Is this bar going to be above my eyes, above my forehead? Where am I going to be? So right now, this bar is like on top of my forehead when I look up. If I go this way, now it's like above my chest. Where do you set up? So most people will say that you should be right underneath. So your eyeballs are right underneath. And the reason why this is important is most of us are going to be training alone. I know I've trained alone for most of my life. Unracking this weight is going to be a very important part of the whole lift. If you set up too far, let's say you are way underneath it, you're like way here, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to now do a pullover, unrack it, do a pullover, get it right above your chest, and then start repping it out. You don't want to do that. You want to limit the amount of energy you're expending in this step. So what I like to do is, this bar right now is like at my chin level, my mouth level, like right here. Because I don't have a spotter, I need to be strong unracking as well. So like mouth, nose level is where I like to be. Then I grab the bar, and now I feel like it's just a little bit of a distance. I've cleaned the J-cups, and now I can just rep out without any worry about hitting the J-cups or expending too much energy on the thing. So the bar was here, right? This is where the bar is when I first get down. The bar is like, in between the nose and the mouth. Everyone's gonna have different kind of like, I don't know, neck distance and body composition and whatever, but this is kind of like a rough idea where you want to be. Essentially, you want to be this far away when you're looking up, this far away from the J-cups. You don't want any more distance than that, otherwise you're going to get in the way of hitting the J-cups as you're kind of going up. That's the second thing. So first I grab the bar where I want to grab the bar, and we've spoken about that. Then I kind of make my body on the bench where the bar is like right here. And the next thing is, how do you unrack the bar? Now, I've done multiple different routines when it comes to this. I've done all sorts of different things. One thing that I learned as I went along is that your upper back, and you might have heard this before from guys who are way more advanced than me, who have spent way more years doing this than me. Your upper back is no joke one of the most important things when it comes to the bench press. It sounds funny because it's on the back of the freaking muscles which are actually doing the work. But your upper back and your stability with your upper back makes everything possible, man. Literally makes everything possible. And I think, when I think back earlier in the year when I was making all those gains, I was doing a lot of cleaning, doing cleans, really shitty form cleans. And I reckon that stimulation of the upper back gave me some adaptations there, maybe put on some muscle which kind of helped me control my upper back. So when you're setting up for the bench press, before you unrack it, you want to make sure you are setting your upper back correctly. So what you basically want to accomplish is you don't want to be benching like this. Just lay down on the bench like this and start repping it out. You do that, you're not going to get far. What you want to achieve with your setup is you want to pinch your shoulders backwards and then down. You basically want to like pack your shoulders into as much muscle as possible. Because if I'm sitting like this, when I'm watching TV, this is not a good pressing position. Even though it might not make sense to you initially, this is awful. If during your benching, you let go of your upper back and you get into this position, it's over. Your ability to produce force drops significantly, like it just plummets. Trust me on that. So what you want to be doing is setting up, having a routine in some sort of way where you are pinching your shoulder blades back and down as much as possible. Now you're pressing. This is where you're pressing. And when you're doing AMRAP sets on the bench press, you will get to a point where you can't hold your upper back position and you start to let go. You start to let go of your upper back. And then what happens is your shoulders start to roll forward. So this is your upper back letting go completely. You've gone from here to here. Your upper back is completely let go. And so when you finally get into this position, now you're up shit creek without a paddle. You're basically finished. You're on your last effort, last fumes, and you're gonna collapse. You're gonna fail here. So your number one role in benching, yes, okay, the elbows and all this stuff, it's important. We'll talk about that as well. This is most important, and this is coupled with your arch. And you see some guys, take the arch to stupid, levels, and they arch like, I can't even do that. Especially the lighter guys. The lighter guys have, more supple frames, and they can really, really arch. But they completely let go of their, frontal core, and they just make a bow and arrow out of their torso. But this is in an attempt, this is all facilitating this idea of a stable upper back. So shoulders back and down, and now we're in a position. Now, when you're setting up for your bench, use the bar. This is what I do. I use the bar to get that tension in my upper back. And so this is what this looks like. So I set up, I get in here, I get the bar at, oh God, my bench is all the way wonky. Hold on, my bench has moved. It's all moved to the side. The struggles of my garage gym. My concrete is all busted. Nothing is really listening to me. Really, I need a new slab in here because the bench otherwise rolls around. But anyway, we'll make it work. So, beautiful, that's better. The bar's over my nose, I get my grip, and from here, the next thought is, okay, I got a bench now, let's set the upper back. And what I do is, I literally pick myself up a little bit, pick myself up, get that tension, because right now I'm doing a row, right? It's like doing a row. I'm doing a row. To do a row, you're gonna have to use your upper back, right? Especially at this level of your chest. So pick myself up, do a row, squeeze the shoulder blades back and down, slowly lay myself down, keep that tension, pin it a little bit, and then unrack. Now I'm ready. The upper back is down, pinch back, and now the shoulders are in the best position to do this business. That is probably the most important thing when it comes to benching, upper back. So obviously, as soon as you say that, you think to yourself, okay, the more muscle I have in my upper back, the better this whole step is going to be. So this is why everyone says, upper back, upper back, upper back. Do your rows, do your pull-ups, do your face pulls. This is something that I've failed to do, face pulls. I'm kind of focusing mostly on rowing, supinated grip rows, pronated grip rows. Rows are important for basically powerlifting in general, strength in general. It helps your deadlifts, right? I hit 270 recently. I talked about how much rows helped me. Absolutely. Rows are number one when it comes to peeling their weight off the ground. Rows, upper back, upper back, upper back. Earlier in the year, when I was doing the AMRAP squat sets, I found out real quick that my upper back was the limiting factor. Started rowing for that as well. Boom, I hit 180 for 13 eventually when I implemented that. So benching, oh shit, look at that again. Rows again, upper back again. And so it's like, you get to a point in your understanding of human movement that upper back seems to be a limiting factor in everything we do. Everything we do. And our posture throughout the day is always like this. You're always stretching the upper back in a bad position. So, sending that upper back into a good position automatically, exposes your chest, puts the shoulder in a good position, and then you can really use the force that you are potential, you have potential of using through that frontal plane. But if you don't, staple those scapulars into position, it's not going to go well for you. Speaking of which, is there anything else we can use to help our upper back positioning? This step here is something that I'm not very good at all. That is leg drive. Leg drive is something that I'm also learning myself. I'm not very good at emphasizing this movement, but in your attempt, this is how I've kind of been explained this by the guy that does 270 kilos in bench press and other guys online as well and whatnot, is that what you're trying to do with the legs is that you don't want them just completely just not doing anything. You want them pushing the ground away. Obviously, you don't want them to slip, but you want it to kind of like plant them on the ground and then actively try and push yourself up the bench. Almost like you're doing a skating up the bench kind of exercise with your legs. So you're doing this, but obviously you're not slipping. Because what this will do is that it will kind of make the friction of the bench end in your upper back. And the whole idea is that you're preventing your upper back from lifting. And if you're pushing yourself up and there's friction on the bench, your back is going to have contact, your upper back is going to have contact with the bench, and it's going to push those shoulders down. It's going to be pushing those shoulders down. So by pushing through the bench, you're scratching yourself on the bench on the upper back point, and you are further sinking those scapulars down. So you can see the whole freaking exercise is based upon keeping those scapulars down and together, and then maintaining that position throughout the whole duration of the lift. And the legs come into play with that. So this is how you should be doing it. And I'm not very good at this as well. I keep forgetting, I keep losing tension to my legs. But you should be grabbing your grip, picking yourself up, doing a row, activating the scapulars back and down, and then using your legs, see, I don't even have space in here, using your legs to push up. And now, everything that I'm doing right now is supporting the upper back to stay in this position. That's basically how you bench press. When you mentally say to yourself, this lift is not about pecs and triceps and anterior deltoids, it's about the upper back. That's where the battle is, that's where the war zone is. Then you start to kind of really process information correctly and go, aha, okay, sure. I didn't lock that thing out properly. Oh, triceps. That's an easy answer. Did you let go of your back? Did you let go of your back? Did you allow the shoulders to roll forward? If you allowed that to happen, man, you can have triceps big as my head. You're not going to finish it because now your base of support is completely gone. And you can't punch like this. You can, but it's not going to be as good, right? I'm thinking of that metaphor. The canoe, the cannon in the canoe. You know, the cannon shoots and the ball just flops into the water because the boat has moved back and it can't propel that cannonball because the base of support is just flowing back. It's kind of like that. This is something that took me years and years and years and years of understanding. And you know, all those times that I had shoulder pain was probably due to me benching in this position and not in this position. You know, benching here and benching like this completely changes everything. And so, yes, of course, get your volume in the bench press, do all of that sort of stuff, but also you must, absolutely must, do accessories for the bench press when it comes to the upper back. Upper back is like, I mean, I'm doing rows twice a week now. I'm hitting them hard. You know, 5 sets of 10 with a grip like this, 5 sets of 10 with a grip like this, and I'm trying to like really improve it. I'm using 100 kilos like this, 80 kilos like this on the second exercise. I'm really, really trying to send it. Now, what are some of the difficulties that I had as I went along? This is something that I guess everyone gets into a position eventually. All of this stuff that I spoke so far about, you probably already know this, right? Like, you know, you've been in the game for a little while, you're like, cool, man, I do all of this already. But what really made you bench 152? So, I was benching away, and I've developed pain in my elbow. This was this time last year, debilitating. People said, do tricep work, so I did tricep work. I did skull crushes. I did the, what do you call them? The, what's that bench presser? JM, Blakely, JM tricep exercises. I did all of that. Elbow's still killing me. Okay, let's do the other side. Let's do bicep curls. So I did bicep curls like this. I did bicep curls like this. I did hammer curls. I did all sorts of things. Didn't work. And then it wasn't until one of the fellas on Instagram messaged me who follows my channel, and he was like, dude, I've watched you for a while. I understand what you're going through right now. I'm somebody that can bench press 200 plus kilos. I think he said 200 plus kilos, something very, very elite. I'm a bench press only type of lifter. I know a lot about benching. Trust me when I say this, dude, your forearms are weak. That's why you got elbow pain. Train your forearms. Your forearms are weak. That's why you have elbow pain. So it's not related to the upper arm. It's related to the lower arm, the forearms. And I thought, shit, okay. And he kind of nudged me in the direction of thinking about my forearms, my grip strength and all that. And I went, okay, cool. So obviously you start kind of searching on the internet. You start, you know, going around the place, trying to discover information, you know, bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongman, everyone, blah, blah, blah. You look at all these different camps for ideas. You watch all these videos, you read all this stuff. And then one night on TikTok, a guy pops up and he's talking about arm wrestling. So he's talking about doing arm wrestling. Oh, okay, interesting. I get in that world, I start digging a little bit further in that, and I quickly realized, man, these dudes have the strongest freaking forearms. They do some crazy shit with their grip strength and their flexion and extension work. Cool. I start doing this. I start researching this, and then boom, I found the exercise which almost immediately fixed my elbow pain. It was like orgasmic feeling when you have something that is tormenting you for months on end, and you start doing this exercise, and it was like that, the pain was sorted. Let me show you what this exercise was. I got myself a belt. This is kind of like a towing strap. What's it called? A towing strap. It's called like a round sling. I don't know what it is. Jan-Tan round sling, 1 ton, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You can use a belt that you wear. I took this and I started off with a lighter weight. Obviously, I didn't start at this, but essentially, I took a kettle and I set my ass down like here and I went to work. This exercise is called pronation, and it's very big in the world of arm wrestling. So you get it like this. You stick your thumb through like this. See that? So it's a strap. I just tied it off so it's not as long. That's all I really did. It's just a perfect loop. I just made it a bit shorter so I can do it while I'm sitting. Through the hole, and I grab the knot like this, and then you just pick it up like this off the ground, and all you're doing is this. This is called pronation. The moment I did this, almost instantly my pain in the elbow went away. Okay, no worries. Do the other side, the less painful side. Do that as well. I would do this for like sets of 20. I haven't done this in a little while now, ever since, oh yeah, left side is now getting weaker. Definitely weaker. If I had to start this again, I'll probably go back lower weight because that's a lot. Started doing that. All of a sudden I realized, holy shit, I go back to benching straight away. Benching feels good. Wow, no worries. So I'll do a bit more benching. This is when I was doing narrow grip. Wow, my elbows don't hurt. Okay, so then I worked out a ratio where I would do, for every working set of that, I would do a working set of that. And I would superset them. And I started really gaining this muscle here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Like, I don't have the biggest forearms, but the problem area here gets addressed. I don't know if you can see that. So the pronator, there's a muscle called the pronator something. I think it's actually just called the pronator. And its role is to just turn it over. And it's this muscle here, I think. It's like a muscle here. If you watch the professional arm wrestlers, they have like this huge freaking bulge of tissue here. And that's called the pronator. And it's a really important aspect of arm wrestling, because the whole idea of what you're trying to do is you're trying to, be in this position. That way it unlocks the other opponent's positioning, and then you beat them in arm wrestling. Anyway, that's arm wrestling. But I plucked that out of their world and I started using it, and I was like, wow, this is freaking amazing. My elbow pain is absolutely gone. And so then, doesn't it make sense that if you can do more volume in the bench press, why don't you do more volume in the bench press? If you can do more volume in the bench press, you're going to become a better bench presser. Oh, shit. So without this, I can do very limited. Like when I was in the pain state, I could do very, very limited amount of work because of the pain. But then I was like, wait a second. I could do 10 sets of 10 with this shit. I could do 10 sets of 10 and just keep the pain away with this. So I was like benching like a madman, huge volumes, twice, 3 times a week, benching like a madman, no pain. Like, you think to yourself, why aren't you benching more? If you want to improve, do it more often. But a lot of us get into a point where something freaking hurts, man. Something hurts. In my instance, it was the elbow. It kept me away. So there was like a requirement to take the next step in strength. I just couldn't survive the work to take the next step, kind of like with the squatting. I know that I needed to do more work, but I just could not survive it. And so then we start to run around the bush and be like, okay, I'll do this exercise, do this accessory. I'll do some really extravagant periodization to kind of run around the pain. But I found a solution that worked, and it addressed everything. Everything for me got addressed. So I just did more work, and that's why I went from 140 kilos to 152 in the space of like 2 months. But then I discovered the wide stuff, and I was like, I have sore elbows. I need to do a lot of this. And it got to a point where I was doing so many hours of this per week that I was like, maybe there's a better way of doing this. What else am I weak at? What else am I weak at? Maybe that weakness is correlating to my elbow. And that's where this whole thing came around. Started doing this, and I realized that I was getting a forearm pump going and doing wide bench press, which was really weird to me. It still is weird. When I do a bench press day, which is every 4 days now, I literally feel like I've done a forearm workout. I don't know why. But that forearm pump that I get and work that I get through because doing wide makes my elbows feel great. And so now everything, all my issues are being addressed with the wide bench, wide grip bench, which kind of begs to think, which makes me kind of like think, what about other forearm work? In recent times, I've also had a bit of a fascination with strongman stuff. I've been kind of experimenting with loaded carries. So on those bench days, I also do farmer's carries. I simply grab a couple of dumbbells. I've done 45 kilos, the most I've done for like 50 steps in the gym. The other day I had a bench press workout. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And I just took the 20 kilo dumbbells and I'll walk them around the house, which is about 100 steps. And I get the forearm work. And so I've kind of identified that when I work my forearms, I can really bench pain free, and I can survive so much volume. And if I do this volume, I improve. And so what's been happening for the last 2 or 3 months is that every single day that I've been wide benching, I've been improving every single session. Either I'm adding a rep or I'm adding a set every single time. And I've gone from 60 kilos for 5x5 on the wide, which was extremely weak for me and I felt really crappy. Now I'm doing 130 kilos. That's my working weight now. I'm doing like, well, yesterday I did two triples and a double. So like I'm improving. Soon I'll be able to hit 5 reps with 130. So it's all improving. And so my experience has been pains have limited me with the volume I can achieve on the bench press. But if you can somehow work out what is the treatment for that pain, it's usually some sort of muscle imbalance. For me, it was the forearms. For you, if let's say you have shoulder pain and you're a wide bencher, man, I would really consider going narrow. Just switch it up. Basically, the way I think about this, man, is you don't want to have a weakness anywhere. You want to be strong here. You want to be strong here, strong here, strong here. Imagine a position, a state with your body where you are strong equally in all these positions. Like to me, if you achieve that, you won't have pain anywhere. That's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. Same with the squats. Why can I squat 215 in this position and I can't even squat 140 in this position? I should be able to squat the same amount of weight, if not even more in the wide. So that's kind of my mentality right now when it comes to bench pressing. It's kind of evolving around the same ideas when it comes to the other lifts as well, squat and deadlift. Find a weakness that you're shitty at and just smash it, absolutely hammer it. If you ignore it, you're going to develop these little nagging issues which are going to prevent you from taking the next step, because that weakness that you have is just simply not allowing you to do the volume that is required for you to take the next step. And so that's kind of what I think about when it comes to the bench press. So I spoke about the grip. I spoke about the importance of the upper back, positioning, the pinching, the leg drive, and that's kind of your benching. A lot of people talk about benching is like one of those movements that really benefits from frequency, really, really high frequency. I mean, for me, right now, the way I've kind of set everything up, I'm doing it once every 4 days. I've got like a 4-day split going on. And their 4-day split, sometimes I throw in like a day off, I call it, where I come in for a 20-minute session when I'm really kind of struggling for time. And that session pretty much I just come in and do a high bar, run up through the weights up to a daily kind of single minimum, whatever you want to call it, and run away. So mostly I have 4 days that I rotate through. Occasionally I take a day off, which is, like I said. And it's kind of, a really groove right now for me. I've been improving every single session on the bench press. So nothing hurts. Everything's balanced. Everything feels great. And that's kind of where I'm at. So for yourself, if you're thinking about this and you're like, damn, what's stopping me? If you're having pain, try and work it out. If it's elbows, you can follow the template that I just basically gave you, working out that elbow pain. If it's shoulder pain, consider changing your grip. So, to the opposite of what I went through. So I went from narrow to wide. If you're going wide, do some narrow. Give your shoulders a break. Right now, my shoulders are feeling mint. That's kind of the general vibe. If you go wide, your shoulders might start causing you trouble. If you go narrow, your elbows might cause you trouble. And so kind of just rotate through and kind of go from there. And I tend to feel like where your weakness is where your pain is going to be, if that makes sense. So if you're having, pain in your elbow, it's probably because you're shitty at wide. I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, that was my experience. Basically, the bottom line is there's not going to be any rules when it comes to this. I'm giving you my experience, my thought process, how I went through all of this. But I think the takeaway message is don't be afraid to change things up, even though you might not like how it kind of looks aesthetically, which has kind of been one of my biggest problems over the years. I just hated how wide bench looked. I hated how wide stance squats look. But I think there's something to be gained there. Even though that's not your primary favorite lift, just do it and strengthen that tissue which is associated with that other lift, with that other stance, with other grip. And I reckon you'll start to make strides and you'll start to kind of unpack some things which you don't even know are waiting for you. There's gains to be made in this, low-lying fruit. These exercises which we are really crap at. It's so easy to improve that shit. Like if your narrow bench is, I don't know, 60% of what your maximum proper grip is, dude, that is so easy to improve for you. Just improve it a little bit and then everything flourishes. So try something different, man. Try something different and don't be afraid to do the things that you're not a fan of. I know it's a tough sell, but that's kind of what's worked for me. Anyway, guys, hopefully this has helped you. Hopefully this has brought some ideas to you. I wish somebody had a video like this for me 1 year ago, because this would have answered all my questions and I would have saved myself a lot of time. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.